love it. Oh, anthropology. Come on. When that anthro? Anyone know? I feel like the girls should know. Welcome, Fort Worth friends. Welcome, Dallas friends in the room. We are continuing this series through Summer on the Mount, where we're studying the Sermon on the Mount. I'm going to start us in kind of a different way. Is anyone engaged in the room? Yeah, there we go. Okay, a couple? No? Only like one? Anyone? Loud and proud. Let's go. Come on. Oh, man. Okay, wow. Yeah. Sore subject for all the seriously dating couples who are like, oh man. Okay, I'm going to tell my favorite, my least favorite, my favorite part of being engaged. Emily Walker, did you raise your hand? You were engaged? Yeah, let the people know. Chad, I'm helping you out, okay? My least favorite and favorite part of being engaged. So when you're engaged, you'll know what I'm talking about because you'll be experiencing likely both these, and all of us will have that to look forward to. If we're not, when you're engaged, my least favorite part of being engaged, and it's going to sound like, why would that be your least favorite? And I'll explain, was something called the shower. You know what I'm talking about? Like the showers that you would be a part of. And if you don't know what a shower is, it's not with soap and shampoo kind of shower. This was a shower that if you're engaged, you have these parties that are thrown for you where everyone comes together and they shower you with gifts. But the reason why this was like always my like, oh man, this is the worst part of being engaged, was because it always felt like you're throwing a party for yourself, essentially, and you're like handing out, hey, this is what I want you to buy and bring me to my party. And even though you're like, no, other people throw it, they throw it because they're like, yeah, I want you to throw my shower when I get engaged. So it's kind of like you're throwing it for yourself. And then the worst part, gosh, and I just like feel bad for people when they're there. So this is probably my own baggage. I'm just getting off my chest tonight. When you're at the shower, there comes this moment where everyone comes together and you're the couple, you and your fiance, and they're celebrating you, and you open the gifts in front of everyone. And the reason why this was like so uncomfortable, and I would be like, no, we'll open them later. We love it. Whatever it is, you can go. We're great. Thank you so much for being here. But you have to open them. And it feels like this public display of like how much you care about me and my fiance. Your public display about how much you care about the couple, where literally you're like, a spatula, really? That's what we're worth to you, Mom? That's hurtful, okay. It just felt like the most uncomfortable part of the entire thing. But although those showers were like my least favorite, the best part of being engaged, I think, and it's kind of related to that, is something called the registry. You guys know what I'm talking about? Holla, yeah, if you're engaged, yes. And the registry is where you get to go select anything you want from these stores that you register at, and you begin to put those things on the register for people to buy. You're telling everyone what to bring to your wedding or what to bring to your shower. And so the reason I loved that was because we went and you begin to just put down, you can put literally anything on there, and it's like a wish list for people to bring to your party or for people to get for you. And so you go around and you show up at Bed Bath & Beyond and Target, and I don't know where else you register for. And then this is even better for the guys. They give you a gun. They like hand you a gun and they allow you, not like a real gun, like a laser gun. You walk around the store and you just shoot the things that you want. It's like duck hunt. You just shoot. I'll take this and I'll take this. And you build your registry. So the day came for me and my then fiance, now wife, to do our registry. And we show up at Bed Bath & Beyond. And it becomes very apparent very early on that we had different perspectives on the things that we wanted to put on our registry. Like the way even we saw what we should register for was totally different. My wife, her name is Callie. She's like very practical. She's like, we need nice plates. We need cups. We need glasses. We need things for people to eat on when they come over. Silverware, utensils. And I was like, we don't need any of that stuff. We need like 2 lazy boys and a barbecue pit. Can we put the remote control helicopter on this thing? Where's the Beyond section of Bed Bath & Beyond? It's really Bed Bath & Kitchen. Can we be honest about this? That's it. There's no like Beyond and here's a shotgun, because that didn't exist. And so of course I'm like, no, we don't need any of that stuff. Or I would be like, oh, we should just get the most expensive stuff. And then if we don't like it, we'll take it back and get gift cards. We'll sell those on eBay or something. And so, and she was like, no, very practical. We need to get the things that we need. We saw this one opportunity for this registry very different as it related to, hey, what should we get? Or how should we use this one opportunity to get things in this context? And the reason I start there is because tonight we're going to continue through the story or through the sermon of Sermon on the Mount, where Jesus is going to say, That just like in that perspective or in that circumstance where my wife and I came in with two different perspectives on how to use our registry or how to use this opportunity to get stuff, what stuff we should get, just like in that perspective, and thank goodness my wife won, or else we just have like a big screen TV and eat on paper plates, but we do have plates and things like that. And Jesus is going to say that as it relates to the one opportunity you have of this life and how to use money towards what to get, if you have the wrong perspective or you pursue getting the wrong things, it, just like a husband and a wife who decide to not get plates, not get silverware, not get all those things, would have a rude awakening. One day they'd look back and be like, this remote control helicopter, who thought of that? Just like in that circumstance, if you and I don't embrace and don't have the perspective God wants for us as it relates to how to use this opportunity of life, to get things, or as we don't have the right perspective on which things to pursue, it has consequences, Jesus is going to say, for this life and the next. And so really tonight we're going to explore the conversation and topic that Jesus brings up next in the Sermon on the Mount. We're going to be in Matthew chapter 6. If you have a Bible, you can flip open to Matthew right now. Very first book of the New Testament will be in chapter 6, picking up where where JP left off last week. And Jesus as well. And we will start in verse 19. And we're going to explore how God calls us to see money, how to see the opportunity this life has for us, an opportunity that money gives us towards getting things. So we're going to specifically look at seeing from an eternal perspective, seeing with a satisfied heart, and how we see who we serve and how we spend. So let me say this one more thing before we dive in. When it comes to money, I don't know if you're like me. I was raised in the church, and it always seemed like the church talked about money. Like, why does the church talk about money? Why is God broke? Why does God care about money? Why does he need money? And really, Jesus is the reason why, and tonight we're going to hear why Jesus talked about money so much. The reason the church talks about it is because Jesus talks about it so much. He talks about money more than heaven and hell combined. You think about that? Like, why? Why would Jesus, when he's on this earth, he only has so many things to talk about, decide, I'm going to talk about money more than heaven and hell combined? And tonight, we're going to see that it's not because God is broke or God wants to have your money. It's because God doesn't want your money to have you. It's not that he needs your money. He just doesn't want your money to grab a hold of your heart. And we're going to see more specifically how it does that and why he is so passionate and talks so often about the topic of money. So we're going to start in verse 19. And there we go. Do not store up for yourself. So Jesus addressing this hillside, this crowd of people. Do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth, where moths and vermin destroy, and where thieves break in and steal. But store up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where moths and vermin do not destroy, and where thieves do not break in and steal. It brings us to our first idea of seeing from an eternal perspective. How are you and I? How does God invite us to see money? The first thing Jesus says is seeing it with an eternal perspective. He really says, hey, as it relates to the pursuit of money in this world, as it relates to just your life and what you should spend it on acquiring more and more stuff. He says, I want you to store treasure strategically. Store treasure strategically. Said that really fast 3 times. Don't spend your life, don't spend your money investing in things in this life alone. Why? Because God hates nice stuff. He doesn't like shiny things. Is that why? Because God needs your money? He wants everyone to be broke? No. That's not what Jesus says at all. He says, look, I'm not saying that it's bad to have nice things. I'm just saying that as it relates to this life, if you spend all of your money and all of your time and everything you devote yourself to is getting more stuff in this life, Jesus says, look, I'm not saying that's wrong or right. I'm saying that's just a bad investment. You are storing up treasure that's only going to expire, that will not last. You're storing up things that will not endure. If all you do is spend money for things in this life, or you devote yourself to storing up more and more in this life, then at the end of this life, you have nothing to show for the next. If all you do is spend all the money that you have at the expense of investing in eternity, he would say, it's just a bad investment. And he gives really a practical reason. And it's not that God hates stuff. It's just stuff breaks down. Like Jesus really, Dave Ramsey has become famous for this teaching of just don't invest foolishly in things in this world. Don't spend your money on things that are going to wear out, things that break down, things that will only lose value. Like you buy a new car, it loses half of its value in the first 3 years. Don't invest solely in things in this world. It's a bad investment. It's going to break down. There's entire industries built around stuff breaking down. Anyone in like tech support here? No? It's like they're all in India for some reason on the phone. The tech support industry, that's not a claim about Indians. It's just like, really, am I the only one? I'm feeling judged right now, okay? Okay? And rewind, okay. The entire tech support industry is built on job security, is on the fact that stuff breaks down. Stuff falls apart, so we have to have people that are on the phone. If you only invest in this life, is what he's saying. I'm not saying you don't have things, don't own things, but if you only invest in this life, you're only going to have things that are going to fall apart that won't last. Invest it in another place, or there's going to be a newer model that comes out, and it's not even that stuff falls apart. It's just like a new iPhone comes out and Apple wins again and we need another one. And he says, look, there's always going to be newer. There's always going to be something breaking down. If you only invest in this life, don't store it up there. Not because it's bad, because it's a bad investment, he's saying, if that's all that you invest in. But store it eternally is the second reason. Store it inside of eternity. That he gives us really like insider information. If you're familiar with the stock market, so insider information is, hey, I'm telling you something, I'm giving you inside information on what to invest in because it's a sure deal. Remember Martha Stewart went to jail? Rest in peace, Martha, for, I don't know why I'm acting like she's dead. Martha Stewart went to jail for, she's not, she's kicking. For insider information, stock market. So in this life, it's illegal to give insider information. In heaven's perspective, God says, look, I'm inviting you now. Do I need your money? No, I created money. I created everything. I don't need your money. I'm giving you an opportunity to invest in something that will far outlast you, to invest in a kingdom that will be the only one that lasts. In my kingdom, God would say, I'm inviting you to invest inside of that. In another passage in scripture, he would say that anything that you give to my kingdom in terms of your time, serving, in terms of giving financially, in terms of your life, anything that you invest, Jesus says, in my kingdom, you will receive 100-fold. You're not making a sacrifice. You're making an investment, he says. That anything you and I give. And so he says, look, when that opportunity exists, why would you spend the rest of your life trying to get more and more, newer, nicer, bigger, faster? Get paid and upgrade. When you can invest in eternity, in the safest place for you and I to invest, and this is crazy and convicting, is not in a 401k. It's not in real estate. It's not in a suitcase of cash underneath your bed, Jesus would say. He'd say, invest in my kingdom. And immediately it's outside of the grasp of the turmoil of the economy around you. You are storing up treasure that will not fade and that will last forever. Don't invest solely in this world, solely in this life. How do you store up treasure? Because Jesus doesn't really answer it. Like, how do we store up treasure in heaven? The two ways the Bible gives us, because Jesus doesn't say in this passage, is anything that you give towards God's kingdom, towards the expanding of his kingdom, your time serving or your money. That's the first way. Anything that you give towards the expanding of God's kingdom, a church, a missionary, an organization that is trying to expand the gospel, the good news of Jesus Christ to people who need to hear it. Anything you give in that way, serving or money, you'll receive 100-fold in the life to come. And the second way he says that we store up treasure is by giving it to the poor. By giving it to the poor. Like, this is the most common answer Jesus gives. He's never like, hey, give me your money. Just hand it over right now. Give me the wallet. He says, look, give your money away. Give it to the poor. And in doing so, you'll have treasure in heaven. How much? The Bible doesn't say. Is it 10%, 20%, 1%? Is it God just giving you a tax? No. It doesn't say, because God's saying, look, I don't want to just give you a number and check the box and you can move on. I want your heart. That's what I'm after. I'm a God who works inside out. I'm after your heart, not just giving you some percentage to cut off. So how much? He says it doesn't answer, but give generously, give radically. And Jesus would say, and you're storing up treasure in heaven. I think where I get like caught on this is I'm like, I don't have treasure. Who has treasure? That like went away with the pirates. I'm not rich. Who is rich? Or I know a lot of rich people, but I'm not one of them. And I think Jesus would say to you and to me, if he's telling his audience this, and his audience that is hearing this for the very first time lives at a level of poverty that most of us will hardly ever be able to even imagine. Like, give us our day. When Jesus gave this original message, he's speaking to this hillside of men and women who lived at a poverty level unlike anything we have in this country. They lived that give us our day, our daily bread. That was literal. They waited in bread lines. And Jesus tells them, the poorest of the poor, don't store up treasure here. And you and I, who are rich in a way that his audience could barely even be able to understand, you have food like for more than one day. He would say, you guys are rich. Don't waste your life trying to build more and more in this life. Invest it in the life to come. I mean, for the sake of illustration, on being rich, like has anyone go on a movie in the past month? Anyone 30 days? Okay, you guys are loaded, all right. Anyone drive here tonight? Anyone own a car? Let's go car. Okay, all right. Some of you guys took the bus, I'm sure. You guys are loaded as well. Anyone have a phone? Anyone have a phone? Anyone have a cell phone? No? Oh my gosh, you guys are in the dark age right now. I feel bad. A phone. If you have a phone, you're loaded. Anyone have an iPhone? Oh my gosh, you are so loaded. Okay, anyone have an Android? Okay, you are confused. And, I'm kidding. Androids are great, I think. Or insurance on a phone. Like, we live at a level, insurance. People, we have insurance. I have insurance on my phone. Most people don't have life insurance. I'm like, I got so much, I'll insure the phone. Why not? We have so much. If you make $32K or $32,000 a year, you're in the top 1% of the world. Jesus would say, you are rich. And don't be fooled. Don't buy into the lie of culture around you on getting richer and richer at the exclusion of investing in the only kingdom that will last, God's. Don't spend your life storing up treasure here at the exclusion of investing it where it will last. I'm not trying to make you feel guilty, Jesus would say. I'm trying to move you towards generosity. I don't want you to feel guilty. Everything that you have is a gift from God. I'm trying to move you in the direction of being generous towards investing in eternity, seeing with an eternal perspective. First idea of how to see our money. That's not all. Jesus keeps going and really tells us the answer behind why God goes hard to the hole on money. Verse 21. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. The eye is the lamp of the body. If your eyes are healthy, your whole body will be full of light. But if your eyes are unhealthy, your whole body will be full of darkness. If then the light within you is darkness, how great is that darkness? Brings to the second idea of seeing how to see our money, seeing with a satisfied heart. Seeing with a satisfied heart. How do you see your money, time, all that you have, and how to use it for God's kingdom? See with a satisfied heart. Why does God care so much about money? He just gave us the answer. God speaks on money 2,000 times in the Bible. There's 500 on prayer, to give it in perspective. 2,000 times, 15% of everything Jesus said is on money. And he just said why. This is why God says, I go hard to the hole. Because money and the way you spend does not just reflect the way your eternity is going to be. In other words, there's a direct connection, he just said, between how you invest in this life and your eternity awaiting you. But it also reflects where your heart is. What has your heart? And unlike anything else, this is so crazy. Jesus just said, where your treasure is, there your heart will be. The number one competitor for your heart is money. It's not sex. It's not alcohol. It's not porn. It's not a relationship. It's money. That's why God says, I'm going after your heart. Because your heart, unlike anything else, not even the devil is not the number one competitor for your heart. Money. Because money creates this illusion of control inside of your heart that if I can just have more and I can just have more. And God says, look, I'm going after your heart. That's why I care about your money. I don't want to have your money. I don't want your money to have you. I don't want you to be a slave to having more and more and more. It will never be enough. I don't want your stuff. I don't care about your stuff. I'm God. What would I do with your Escalade? I don't care about that. I don't want your Escalade to have you. That's why I care about money, he says. Because just like your money is a direct, how you spend reflects who has your heart. And he says, that's why I talk about money so much, because I know unlike anything else, money is going to fight and compete to take your heart. And I want your heart. I'm a God who's all about the heart. That's the entire Sermon on the Mount, essentially, is all about Jesus saying it's about your heart, not your hands. And then he brings up what seems like kind of a random subject on the eye. It's like store treasures in heaven, eternity. And while we're on this subject, let's talk about the eye. It's like, we weren't on that subject, Jesus. All right, so the eye, and he says the eye is the lamp of the body. The eye is the, hey, thank you. Thanks, Mom. The eye is the lamp of the body. He uses an illustration to say basically that just like in this culture, because there wasn't electricity, there wasn't those things, anytime you had a lamp, you would walk behind a lamp. In the midst of darkness, you follow a lamp. That's how things got lit up. And he says, just like a lamp that is lit, everything moves in its direction. Your eye, your vision, or your perspective on this world, in the same way, everything is shaped. The rest of your life will move in the direction of how you see the world around you. How you see money will determine the entire course of the way your life moves. And he says, look, if you have a healthy or a good, you may have in their eye, you have a good perspective on life, that this world is just a vapor. It's disappearing. It's an opportunity. Every dollar and every moment is an opportunity to invest in eternity, or one that I will lose forever. If you have that perspective, he says, your whole life, the way that you work, the way that you see buying purchases, the way that you have relationships, the number of hours you work at your job, everything will move in that direction. But if you have an unhealthy or bad perspective, which is what he says, everything will move in the opposite direction. If that's off, if your vision of this life, if your vision of money is off, it impacts way more than money. It'll impact your anxiety levels. It'll impact the things that you focus on, your attention span, on I have to have the next Tory Burch purse, the next car, newer upgrade, newer whatever it is. Everything moves in that there's way more at stake than money. And Jesus says, look, if your perspective is off, it's going to affect everything. It's not just about money. And God, who loves you and cares about the course of your life, is saying, look, don't get swept up in the current of culture around you that's saying buy more, have more, get more debt, spend more money, buy more, buy newer things. Don't allow that flawed perspective to influence your vision, but see this life for what it is. See it clearly. There's much more at stake than just your vision or just money even. Paul would say this later, and he's writing to Timothy, and he says this about people who want to be rich or want to have more, nicer, newer, more and more, which is all of us. I mean, that's the weird thing about money, is it's like intoxicating. You want more of it. He says this in 1 Timothy. He writes to Timothy, and he addresses people who want to get rich. Verse 9 of chapter 6. Those who want to get rich or richer fall into temptation and a trap, and into many foolish and harmful desires that plunge people into ruin and destruction. For the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil. Some people eager for money have wandered from the faith and pierced themselves with many griefs. So Paul writes later and says, look, it's not just this life even alone that's at stake. If you have a wrong view, or your view is, I need to get more, I need to get paid, upgrade, get mine, take care of me, myself, and I need more dollars in my bank account, I need a newer purse, newer watch, that next thing. If that's your perspective and you do so at the exclusion of investing in eternity, Paul says, it will never be enough. And Timothy, I'm writing you, and here's what I want you to tell those rich people. I've seen this firsthand, is what he says. That the desire for money has not just impacted their relationships, their marriage. I've even seen it, Timothy, erode their faith. Some men and women who used to be among us, they used to be brothers, they couldn't control the appetite for money. And they walked away from their faith. They walked away from the God who is there and worshiped the God of money. He says, if you don't surrender that to Christ, and I don't, that desire for more and nicer and newer, bigger, not only impacts all of life, but it even impacts your faith, or erodes your faith. And I think what I love about that passage is it answers a couple things. Is it a sin to be rich? No. Is it a sin to want to be rich? Not if you want to give it all away. And I hear this often from friends in the business world. I think this is great, where they'll be like, yeah, I want to go in, I want to make a lot of money, and I'm going to give it all away. And the funny thing about that scenario, and I'm sure that's everyone here who's like, I want to make a lot of money to give it all away, is if that's you want to be poor. You ever think about that? Like if you're like, yeah, I just want to make a lot of money to give it all away. I mean, you want to be poor. Why not just cut out the middleman and boom, voila, you're there. You don't have to make anything. Think about it. I mean, most people when they say it, they're like, yeah, I want to make a lot and I want to, give it all away. They really mean I want to be wealthy and have a boat that I can lend out to people in ministry. That's what I want to do. That's what they're just saying. And that's great. You got a boat? We'll take it. But so what's wrong with me? So many things. But it's true. And if you want to be rich to give it all away, you want to be poor. Voila, you're there. And Paul says, look, is it a sin to want to be rich? I don't know. It's at least dangerous, he says. Don't allow the appetite for more and more and more to get a hold of your heart, to direct the course of your life. I feel this every day like you do in Dallas, where we just live in such materialism that I know it's impacting the house I want to live in, the car I want to drive, the money and the way I want to use money, my desire for it. Like when I came to Watermark 6 or 7 years ago, I remember I was making 10 grand a year. So I came right out of college. I'm getting 10 grand. Don't be jealous. And I remember getting that phone call and I was like, yes, absolutely. 10 grand. That's amazing. Getting off the phone and be like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do with all that money? How are they going to give it to me? Like in a suitcase of cash? I'm thinking like blank check. I'm on like the mattress just doing snow angels and money and LeBron. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is going to be unbelievable. That's so much money. And now fast forward, I make over 4 times that. And it's still not enough. I feel like the current of culture pulling me. You need more. And the times that I honestly, often, there are times I want to leave ministry. And it's not because pastoral care conversations are hard, and they are, and heavy. It's not because, oh yeah, you got to work on Sunday, even during football season. It's not because of that either. It's money. Because I want more money. And it's like, even in this text, Jesus says, David, don't buy into the lie that the world around you is selling you. Don't buy into it. Don't forfeit and give up and walk away from ministry after the love of money. I'm not saying everyone should be in ministry. I'm saying in that scenario, it's easy for my heart to convince me I need more of it and to begin to walk away. And Jesus, through these pages to me this week, just whispered, don't leave it for more money. It will never be enough. If you begin walking down that road, you'll never have enough. The more you get, the more you want. There will never be enough. But I will always be, David. I will be. Will you surrender to me? Will you trust me? Will you invest in my kingdom? Don't buy into the lie that everywhere in Dallas is being sold. Every advertisement, just all around us is being sold. Don't fall for it. Don't allow your life to move in that direction. See with satisfied eyes. And he finishes off verse 24 and really gives us an indication on how we can see who we serve. He says this, no one can serve 2 masters. Either you will hate one and love the other, or you will be devoted to one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money. You will either be a servant of God, like that, even that's radical. It's like, really? I feel like I can. God and the devil, maybe, but God and money, can't we just like prioritize them? And he says, no. You cannot serve them both. You will either be a servant of God or you'll be a servant of money or a slave to money. Which is it going to be? You'll either serve one or serve the other. You cannot have both. Seeing who you serve, and you really can see who you serve by how you spend. Like how you use your money tells you, who am I a servant of? How am I using this money? Like in my registry, remember when I was registering, and in that registry, I had to decide, am I gonna choose to serve me or to serve my wife? Like I can't have both. We're either gonna get the plates or the helicopter. What are we gonna do? And I had to choose which one to serve. And you can't have both. Jesus says you cannot serve, you cannot be a servant of God and money. Ultimately, you'll either serve God and you'll see money as something to use to serve him, to serve the master. It's his money, I'm gonna use it to serve him, or you'll be a slave of money. And you'll see money as just something you can do whatever you want with. You can serve however you want. But God says you cannot be neutral on this. You cannot serve both money and me. You're gonna have to choose. I think what's crazy about money is like you can move in the direction of serving money without even realizing it. Like think about even things we own. Like anything that you can't give away, you don't own. It owns you. Like you've moving already in that direction where you're like, you no longer own it, or else you could decide what to do with it. It owns you. And God says, look, I'm inviting you to have freedom, be a servant of me. Allow me to be the master over your finances. Or you'll be a slave and servant to money. When the Bible presents this really two ideas of are you gonna be a servant of God, or how do I know if I'm a servant of money? Like how can I really see that? It presents this broad teaching within the Bible of two categories of people as it relates to their money. And the first one, that's a servant of God, sees everything that they have, every dollar, every moment, everything that they do, as they are a steward of. It's not theirs, it's on loan. The Bible teaches Psalm 24:1, the earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof. Everything you have is right now on loan, God says. How are you gonna steward it? So the first person, servant of God, sees himself as a steward. The second person sees himself as an owner. I do whatever I want with it as it relates to spending. How do these two break down? The owner says, do I have it in the bank? Yeah, done. Or I'll get a credit card and I'll buy it on credit. A steward says, God, would you have me buy this? As it relates to savings, an owner says, yeah, I'm gonna save and save. If there's a depression, a recession, I wanna have a nest egg. I wanna have backup. I'm gonna save as much as I can. And a steward says, God, I don't want to put my trust, I don't want to find security in the numbers in a bank account. That's foolish. How much would you have me save? Here, what would be wise? As it relates to giving, how does an owner and a steward break down? An owner says, God, how much do you want me to give? Like, what's the number? Just tell me it. And a steward says, God, how much do you want me to keep? It's all yours. I want to be wise in the way that I steward it. How do you see your money right now? Everything that you have and I have. It's so convicting. God says, you are the steward of. You make $1 million or you make $5,000. You're going to give an account for how you stewarded every single penny, every dollar. How do you see yourself, an owner or a steward? A servant of God or a servant of money? As I look at just the application for me of just this text, it's like, whose kingdom am I building? Whose kingdom am I gonna invest in? I've only got so many days, so many dollars, so many moments. Whose kingdom am I gonna give to? And whose kingdom are you building into? Whose kingdom are you investing in? Specifically as it relates to your time. Who are you giving your time to? Are you serving somewhere? Are you building into God's kingdom? Your kingdom won't last. My kingdom will not last. As it relates to your time, whose kingdom are you building? If you're working like a 90-hour job, like some of you, honestly, you should quit your job. Most of you shouldn't, and you should be there on mission, and that's a ministry for you. But some of you, after just working in years with young adults, they come down front and they're like, yeah, I would serve, I would do this, but I just work 90 hours a week right now. I'm in iBanking. I don't have time to serve. And Jesus would say, you don't have time not to. Whose kingdom? I'll do it someday. You don't know how many days you have. Whose kingdom are you gonna give your life to? Before you come down and you're like, yeah, I think I should quit my job. I'm not saying, most of you shouldn't. We need people in the marketplace. We need people in every arena, honestly, who love Jesus and do a good job. But whose kingdom are you gonna give your life to? How are you going to spend? Whose kingdom financially are you gonna give your life to? And I get like insecure, honestly, as a pastor, and I know my community's helping me work on it. My wife's a counselor. We're working through it because I'm insecure. But just talking about money on a stage, it's like, yeah, give us your money, put it in here. And I just want to take that off in case you have sensitive baggage like me where it's like, oh, the church wants my money. We don't want your money. We've never taken an offering here, not one time at the Porch. We've only actually given out money once, maybe twice that I know of. We don't want your money. And so what I want to do is remove that. If you're going, look, I don't want to give it. I'm not going to give it to the church. Give it to some missionary. Give it to some organization that's living on mission. Give it to building up the kingdom. Let me take that excuse off the table. But whose kingdom are you going to give to? Yours or the only one that will last? The only one that all of us someday we're going to look back on and see, the only one that ever mattered. Whose kingdom are you going to invest in? If you're going, I don't have enough money, you may need to do a budget because at the end of the month, it just kind of disappears. If you're not intentional to invest it, Jesus says, invest it now, or someday you'll look back and only wish I'd done more. I know that's how I will. How we spend not only shows who we serve, it shows who we treasure. How you give shows who you treasure. Like for me, how I give, how I spend. Is it me? Is it my comfort? Is it that? Or is it Jesus? Does the way that I live model that he's the ultimate treasure of my life? How I spend and how you give not only shows who you serve, but who you treasure ultimately in this life. And the ultimate treasure is not a bunch of things. It is a person, Jesus. Just like in that registry where we registered and we got all the gifts and we got married. And we went to the house and got all the gifts open, and it was awesome. People were really generous. We got spatulas and all the egg poacher and all the exciting stuff. And in that case, the ultimate treasure, though, it wasn't, and this goes without saying, it wasn't the toaster. It was my wife, Callie. Like, that's the treasure of getting married. If you get married because you're like, I need a new toaster or a blender, who wants to get married? That'd be a bad idea. The ultimate treasure in that case, in that scenario, it's not a bunch of things. It's a person. In that case, my wife. And the ultimate treasure in this life is not a bunch of things. It's a person named Jesus. Like the ultimate treasure for all of the ages in every single life. He is the treasure of the ages is Jesus. It's not a bunch of things. It's a person. And how you spend showcases that in my life, the ultimate treasure is Jesus. He's the treasure of all existence. And one day we're going to see that clearly. And just like a husband, in that case, if I got married and I did get married and I was sitting out there and I'm like, oh my gosh, this stuff is amazing. And I allowed the toaster and the blender to distract me from the ultimate treasure, which was my wife. You'd look at it and be like, you're crazy. If she wanted to go to bed and I was like, no, I'm going to play with the popcorn maker a little bit more. You'd be like, what is wrong with you? Guilt-free sex. You can have it. You're married. It's not good. It's a singles crowd. Yeah, it's true. Put a ring on it, okay? Okay. Man, I'm killing a moment. We got spiritual music behind and everything. And the smoke. Just like in that scenario where if I was like, no, you go to bed, I'm going to sit out here and play with the toaster. You'd be like, what is wrong with you? You're getting distracted from the ultimate treasure. When some of us look back in this life, and when the day comes where we see it clearly from heaven's perspective, just like a husband looks foolish playing with the blender while his wife, he wants to spend time with his wife, or his wife wants to spend time with him, he's distracted from the ultimate treasure. It will look that way for us who allow stuff in this life, our bank account, to distract us from the ultimate treasure. Who's the ultimate treasure? Jesus. The treasure of all eternity, the treasure of this life, the treasure of existence. Like even in the life to come, have you ever thought about this? And I'll close right here. In the life to come, the treasure in heaven is not a bunch of things. It's Jesus. Like John in Revelation 21, he describes heaven, and you should go read it tonight. John is given this vision of heaven where Jesus basically appears and shows him what heaven is like. And John describes it, and he says all these different things that we value in this life. He speaks of gold and sapphire and diamonds and emeralds and jasper. But he says, like, all the things you value when you get to heaven, gold is like asphalt. Drywall is emeralds. The foundation of things is pearls. It's like everything in the next life that you and I value. It's as though God is sending us a message. It'd be like all the walls being made out of Louis Vuitton purses. It's God sending a message saying everything that you value, even in the life to come, all the things you think are treasure, all of them one day you'll see as they're all pushed aside to make way for the clearest treasure, Jesus. And one day you're going to see it, and one day I'm going to see it. And I'll close here. My fear for this room and my fear from my heart, honestly, is that I'm going to allow things, a bigger house, more in my 401k, to distract me from the ultimate treasure, which is Jesus. And I don't want you to spend the rest of your life chasing little green pieces of paper with dead presidents on it. And that's what it is. Spending your time, spending your money, spending all those things, getting more and more stuff. I mean, what are we going to do if God gives us 40 years, 50 years? Really? Are we going to just spend it trying to get a bigger house, a newer car, a nicer model? Or are we going to spend it? And God, I hope this is true of my life. When my time comes and I look back, I want to use my life to show other people the ultimate treasure, which is Jesus. I want to use everything that I have, every dollar that I have. And I like shiny things and I like nice things. God, will you help me in your grace? Will you help us in your grace to not get distracted by the things of this world, but to showcase and show others the ultimate treasure, which is Jesus. And right now, as you leave and you think on your life, whose kingdom are you going to build? What are we going to do with the rest of your life? If you heard tonight me say, give the church your money, that would make me really sad. I'm saying give your life to Jesus. Build into the only kingdom that will ever last. Showcasing the treasure of all life, all existence. And one day we're gonna see it when our time comes and your time comes. And we'll look back and the question of whose kingdom did I build? Whose kingdom did I invest in will either be answered mine, and I wasted it. I wasted the opportunity. Or yours. I wish I would have done more, but I built yours. And he's inviting us now to build in the only kingdom that matters. The only one that will last. I'm gonna pray that we do that. God, would you help us? Would you help me? I'm so allured by just the next thing, nicer things. I'm so discontent often. Would you in your grace help me, help all of us in the room who know you? Our spirit is willing often, but our flesh is so weak. So will you help us? Would we be a generation that gives our life away? God, would you at the end of my life, I want to be someone who showed the ultimate treasure was Jesus. It will always be you in this life and the next. Out of all that we could say or do, would that be said of us? We love you. Thank you for our King.